what would you say now, moving forward, in terms of we had a pandemic preparedness strategy internationally? I know there's a discussion with some international organisations trying to change all those around, but what would you say in terms of where we are now and moving forwards, lessons learned? I know one of the big concerns is children. I mean, I notice when I'm in the States that in some letterboxes you're getting flyers to say 6-month-olds should be getting shots.
There's financial incentives and regulatory incentives and liability incentives that drive a lot of that. But your bigger question is pandemic policy, and that's a huge one. Yeah. Okay, and I'd like to start by, again, let's dissect a little bit. Go back in time, fall of 2019, Event 201, which I mentioned. Okay, in their war game planning, with all of its biases, they had some starting assumptions. You always do when you do war game planning. You say, okay, these are our starting assumptions. Now we're going to play the game. Those starting assumptions included a highly pathogenic virus. We now know that was false. It included the assumption that there were no repurposed drugs available that would be effective in treatment. We know that was a false hypothesis, a false assumption. And that there would be a vaccine produced rapidly that would be safe and effective. And we now know that's a false hypothesis. That whole war game was built and then implemented based on a set of core assumptions, each of which were never challenged, never modified. I mean, that's when you deal with folks in defense, one of the things that they know they'll teach you right off the bat is your battle plans are only as good as until the first time you encounter the enemy. And then you have to modify them. They never modified them. They never revisited those assumptions. They just kept hammering them down. Okay? And I think that one of the core things going forward that we can derive from this is centralized planning with a small insular in-group that suffers from this kind of hubris where they believe that they know. In infectious disease outbreaks, nothing is knowable. Everything is new. It's constantly shifting. It's like you're standing on an iceberg that's melting in a frozen sea. Everything is changing all the time. You have to be really adaptive, and hubris is the enemy. And what we have seen again and again and again is this belief in scientism, in the holy of the revealed word coming from, where's it coming from? Think tanks sponsored by a monopolist multi-billionaire who has no background in training in medicine? Somehow, this is not the way it used to be. This is not the WHO when I was young. This is not the system that used to exist.
I would like to kind of piggyback onto that because you brought it up earlier. What we've also lost is public health. Public health is shattered, broken, and bruised. Did you hear early on, go outside, increase your vitamin D levels, get off your couch and lose some weight, get out in nature, improve the function of your immune system? Shinrin Yoku is Japanese forest bathing, increases your natural killer cell activity. Do some meditation or prayer practice, be in community, cut out the sugars, cut out the unhealthy processed foods. That would have been a public health message saying,
and it would have been a lot more effective than the vaccines.
And there was a great study out of the UK here showing that those who exercised and moved their bodies, and it was a several 100,000 patient retrospective look, decreased their severity and hospitalization risk by about 291%. And then all of us that were criticized for saying vitamin D is helpful. Well, the study finally came out and said, yes, it decreased hospitalization and death by over 30%. Yeah. It's not, like he says, it's not one part of it. It's multifactorial, absolutely. But where is public health? Public health is captured and compromised.
It is
it should be said in Britain,
it's a servant of pharma.
We did have vitamin D, but your points about the multifactorial elements of all of this and considering it with evidence-based approach is really important. Well, we're drawing to the end here, but I think, I could go on for hours with you guys because this is so insightful. But I think the thing in that many people, because I'm a complete layman, and it's very difficult for anyone who's not trained like you guys to make any sense of any of it. But what has really concerned many of us is the suffocation of free speech, the discourse, the ability to have it out, thrash it out, and to work things out. And there's a sense in which, that's been really put off the agenda, but it's become much clearer now. So we really hope it together that we're going to see much more of you guys, and also that we can get some of our the leading advocates of some of the policies that have happened to debate people like yourselves.
Yeah, for some reason that's never happening. I don't understand it. I'm so confused.
Yeah. Well, we've asked them. We've invited people for a national debate on television and everything, but we're going to keep insisting on free speech. I think that many of us that together would like to say very big thank you for being prepared to put your heads above the ground and the pulpit and in difficult circumstances. Where are you off to next? What's your next steps? Just
after we leave London,
Yes.
we travel to Stockholm for a Northern European International Conference that I believe is more focused on trying to assess where we are and trying to start to think through where we're going and what we can do. I think the big challenge we all face right now, we're so caught up in tribalism, certainly in the States. I can't speak for the UK, but I see a little bit of that here from time to time.
Yeah,
absolutely. How do we come together and heal? How without saying that we should forgive and forget those that have led the dysfunctional practices that have caused so much death and destruction. But on a local level, how can we live with each other and try to reform community? And I think that what I've been trying so hard to push out into common awareness is the awareness, the realization that we have all been subjected to a massive propaganda campaign, the likes of which the Western world has never seen before. Yeah. Highly organized, using new technologies that were developed for offshore combat in this PSYOP space that have been deployed against the citizenry. And what I counsel is that we've all been subjected to this massive barrage for 3 years now. Some of us, for whatever reason, have been more resistant to it. Or we've had a series of events that have woken us up, or whatever it is, and now we're aware of what's happened. And the layers keep peeling off. I mean, each of us has what we think is the current awareness, but there's often so much more. And then there's those who have not been able to resist this incredibly well-coordinated propaganda technology that's been deployed. And they're still walking around kind of hypnotized, believing everything they've been told. No surprise. This is highly developed technology that has been deployed against them. And if you take that point of view, then you don't have to hate those people. You don't have to say, look what they've done to me. They forced me to take masks. They forced me into all these policies. They accused me of being the one spreading the virus when in fact they were, if anybody was. All that anger, you can let loose of it a little bit if you say to yourself, hey, good on me. I was able to wake up. Now my job is to help them wake up, not to hate them.
On that note, I just want to say thank you to you both for coming and speaking to us. It's really been wonderful to do this. Obviously, at Together, we think very much that we want to win over as many people in the public, and we do that by having open discussion civilly and not insulting people, but actually listening and trying to win hearts and minds. With that effect as well, we'd very much like you to become a member if you're not, because that's the way we can keep going out to the public and keep campaigning for free speech, for the reinstatement of the care workers, against kids' jabs, and also around some of the technocratic impositions that are happening up and down the country, whether that's LTNs and 15-minute cities or suffocating of productivity. So thanks for joining Together Talks. Thank you very much to Robert and Ryan, and we'll see you very soon.